Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, a podcast for estate professionals who earn more, work less, and make a huge difference in their communities. If you get value out of this free content, be sure to check out ProbateMastery.com, where you can get live classes, access to weekly coaching, and valuable courses. To learn more, visit ProbateMastery.com. Now let's jump into this week's content. Okay, guys, we are recording. We are live. Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind podcast and coaches call. To those of you that are new here, I don't know. Bill might recognize a few new names, but Bill is generally the host. We are going to start shuffling some things up here over the next couple of weeks and try to get some fresh faces and experiences and perspectives for you guys. So I'm going to start stepping in and doing some of these coaching calls. We've got a few other coaches that may come in and share some experiences, but we have Bill here who normally does this call. Bill, excited to continue to see you here, but you're going to let me know when you're available to jump in. We're just shuffling a few things up and trying to give folks a broad spectrum of experience and different specialties and techniques on these Tuesday coaching calls. So they're going to continue to move as they have been. And I just want to welcome everyone that is here into the call. Today, I kind of want to start talking with you guys about baby steps in your probate business. So I think the majority of folks on this call know that I like to talk about your entire real estate business as a whole. Probate for me has always been a piece of the pie. So for me, probate was always about 20 to 30% of my business pie from year to year. Bill, you're a little bit different. I think it's more like 70 or 80% for you, right?
All my business development is focused on probate.
Yep.
And, it's interesting when you ask that question because I've had listings that are technically not probate court or a probate estate, but they came because somebody saw my business and, said, "Oh, I don't know if can you help me with my house?" And the answer is, of course, yes. So, well, not all 100% is because of probate. Right now, my inventory actually is probably all probate. Even those non-probate deals I get are because I'm working on this every single day, talking to attorneys, talking to families.
I love it. That's awesome. And that is a really valuable point that Bill brings up, is the more you can niche down and specialize with your marketing and your message that you're putting out to an audience, the more memorable you're going to be. So while my focus is generally on coaching people and teaching them how to build a very well-rounded business, that probate is one of the, if not the main spoke of the business, and Bill's is a little bit more probate is the only spoke. Anytime you can niche down and get your message extremely clear and focused on something that your competitors aren't talking about, you're going to be more memorable. And the more memorable you are and the more likable you are, obviously you can't be memorable for being an annoying real estate agent that pesters people, but the more memorable you are and the more likable you are, the more likely it is you're going to get that business, even if it's outside of probate. So we do like to encourage folks to get really clear on your probate messaging, not in a way that you go chasing people off. Our messages often can either repel business from us or it can attract business. And I'm sure, Bill, you've seen a lot of times that agents and investors just have a message that even if their niche is clear, their message might just push people off. So I want to focus a lot with you guys today on our messaging and how we're crafting our message in a way that draws business in, and then also talk a little bit about working baby steps into your business if you're new. So I would like to see maybe a show of hands or some engagement. And obviously, this is going to be our regular interactive call. So if you guys have questions, I want you to go ahead and pop your hands up. I'm just going to get us started here with a couple of different topics. Bill, I want you to feel free to just unmute yourself and chime in when you have something differing perspective or something that you feel like is gonna play really well to the topic. But I want to start by kind of talking to you guys, those of you that are either new or haven't really built the business to the level that you want to build it to. I want to talk to you about baby stepping into the business and what activities you should take first. Now, could you guys wave at me or speak up, unmute yourself and speak up if you are either newer in the probate niche, or maybe you're not newer in the probate niche, but maybe instead you've been doing it for a year or two and you just haven't gotten the traction that you hope to have. Do I have anyone here that's like that? Okay, haven't quite gotten the traction. I would like, Bill, if I were to ask you, Bill, how do you get the traction that you need? What would you say? And then I'm going to throw my 2 cents in on top of it.
I like to say, and I have this conversation with agents every day, I like to say there's something magical. But the truth is, having gone to Grant Cardone's 10X conference, and I think just my nature, I just keep, if I get the result I want, I just do more.
Mhm.
And sometimes people, when they look and see how many videos I do or how many, people I interview, that's my current business development activity. They go, "Oh my gosh, how do you do all that?" I go, "I don't know. I just keep moving." And, literally, that's my goal, is just to do it, do as much as I can, watch the
Mhm.
metrics, see where the numbers are, and then, try to do better. And I think that the focus is always on creating value for your customers. So as long as you're doing that, at the end of the day, it's just being more productive. So I don't know any real insight
Mhm.
um, for you, other than I'm committed to this process, and I work hard every day at it.
I think that is insightful. And I'm going to have a follow-up question for you. Andrea, we'll come to you in just a minute. So my follow-up question is, what are those business activities that you are doing more of? So I've gotten to watch your business from both from a peer's perspective and from a distance over the years. And to me, I don't see you doing 1,000 different activities. I see you doing a few activities a lot. What would those activities be that have produced you the result?
Yeah, I would say actually even do one and focus on it. So I started in probate 5.5 years ago, 5 years ago, March to be precise. My business development was to go to court every day. Now, it worked for me, and I'm not saying anybody else should do it, because I was in LA. It's a huge court, huge probate court, and there's enough to do every day for 5 days a week. But I did that. I took Probate Mastery. One of the challenges of the coach was to go to court once and scope it out, and it was fascinating. Went back again and again and again, to where I said, I could make this my business development strategy, like door knocking, but at court instead. And I did that every day. I left my house at 7:15. I was at 7:45, and I would stay through 10:45. My
Mhm.
goal in 3 hours was to get 1.5 name contacts, name, address, phone number, email, and permission to stay in touch with them. I just worked out the numbers and realized, one didn't get me what I wanted. I went to 1.5, and next thing you know, I was so busy that I continued to do that, and I enjoyed it until COVID stopped that. When COVID hit, I had to redo my business planning, and my main focus was interviewing people. I would call attorneys or people would refer me business, and I would spend 3 hours a day either calling them, setting up the interviews, doing the interviews, and building a YouTube platform. I started on Facebook and then switched to YouTube. The important thing is just I spent 3 hours a day, and after a while, I got good at it. I wasn't good the first 30 days. I wasn't good the first 90 days. After a while, I got good, and it accumulated. And that's the other thing I would say to everybody here is it takes time to accumulate those successes, but they'll come from places you don't expect. So that was, again, not very elegant, but those are my processes.
I love what you just said because we have another one of our coaches and familiar names that a lot of you are going to recognize, Courtney Rollins. And if I were to ask Courtney that question, one day I'll ask, and I'm gonna ask him on this call, and you guys are already gonna know the answer. But if I were to ask him, he also has kind of a 3 hour a day rule, and that's those 3 hours a day that Courtney has are spent on the phone. And so some people spend 3 hours a day knocking on doors or doing maybe driving for dollars. Some people spend 3 hours a day on the phone. People like Bill spend 3 hours a day at the courthouse. Another person might spend 3 hours a day creating content, videos and blogs, or interviewing vendors. There's all kinds of different paths to success. And I think that what I'm taking from what Bill just said is that the key is not doing 5 minutes of each thing per day, but really picking that lane that you're going to be in that you know is going to lead to success and becoming over time really, really good. And I love how you just said, Bill, that you might not have been really good in the first 30, 60, 90 days, but eventually you get really good. And it was probably at the expense of being really uncomfortable the first time you went to court, would be my guess. How'd that first one go? And then I'm going to go to Andrea. Sorry, you've had your hand up forever. I think this is the last question I'll ask Bill before I come to you.
Yeah, I would say, of course, and I'm not very social. I'm shy by my nature. You know,
You just went muted. Cord came unplugged.
sorry about that. I hit my microphone. Um, my nature, I'm very shy. I'm an introvert. You know, it was hard for me to go to court to meet people, but and I will say what made it easy was in the beginning, I really just went to do recon work. I went there to scope out what was there, who was there, what's the layout, where's the coffee shop, where's the files, what's the staff like, so that how do you get in, where do you park, so that I was more comfortable. So I really went for about 5 days, really just doing recon, and then I made the decision. I saw the opportunity. There's people milling about outside the courtroom. There's people milling about in the probate research room. There's people at the coffee shop. And so I just learned, you know, I kind of made my strategies just to bump into people. But I had done the recon, and that made me more comfortable before I started.
I like that. Looking at it as a recon. So I'm going to liken it to my first day of going to a jujitsu class. I walked in, and guys, I walked out, and then I walked back in, and I walked out, and I said, I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what protocol is. Bill, or anyone here going to court, I hear these stories very often. We go in, we go out. It's uncomfortable. I'm going to walk up. I psych myself out. Eventually, you push yourself through the psych out. Everybody that does this goes through the same process. We all like to psych ourselves out with something that is unknown, but eventually, little by little, you learn the ropes, and you realize that there was really nothing to get intimidated by to begin with. Um, and if you have anything to add, Bill, you can add it in. Otherwise, I am going to go to Andrea for our first question. Folks, if you guys have questions, please pop your hand up. I'd love to hear from you. If anyone here has a really good story or experience or something that you do as your like specialty inside of this probate niche, we want to hear from you guys as well. Andrea, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, so thank you for inviting me to this webinar today. And most of my business is working with estate planning attorneys or people who are downsizing. And so I'm on here today because I would like to know a little bit more about the probate and how I might be able to be more valuable to the estate planners, the CPAs, financial planners, and clients that I work with, just to make the process be smoother. And so
Yeah.
anyway, I'm looking forward to learning from you.
Thank you so much. You've got a lot of great folks here to learn from. There are a lot of people that really focus on that vendor niche, And it's something that I always focused on. I think Bill has some good relationships. I see some other familiar faces here that have good vendor connections. I find that approaching them from the standpoint of promoting their business, almost above mine, is the most valuable approach to building those rock solid relationships. Now, it just so happens that I know that the consumer normally is not searching for the real estate agent or the investor first. Most consumers don't know that there's such a thing as a probate or an estate specialty in real estate. They think that any realtor does what any other realtor does, any investor does what any other investor does. And so therefore they don't rush to Google or YouTube to find the next real estate agent or the best real estate agent that focuses on estates. Because of that, I look at my vendors as my path to meet the consumer. So I like to go to the vendors and promote through interviews and marketing, promote their businesses in a way that when the consumer finds them, they also find me. And maybe when they find me, they say, wow, I didn't know that there was such a thing as an investor that specializes in this. I didn't know there was such a thing as an agent that specializes in this. I didn't know that someone could coordinate all these other services for me and help connect me to the other resources and vendors that I needed. So they're not looking for me to do that before they've seen my content and my interview and my connections with my vendors. They're not looking for me to do that because they don't know that that service exists. So if I'm going to show them the service exists, I need them to find me on the platforms where they are camping out, where they are looking. And that to me is Google and YouTube through the medium of interviews with my vendors. So my estate planning attorneys, my estate sale companies, my life transitions related vendors, and so on. Bill, anything to add? Anybody else have an approach that's similar to that you guys have used? And Andrea, was that close to helpful?
Yes,
Bruce,
I think I'm on the right track. I currently belong to a BNI group where I have like a core, also some core vendors that like an estate planning attorney, a CPA, and a financial planner, and they've asked me to help with like date of death values and like different things. And then when the person's ready to sell, then I usually then they're like, "Hey, Andrea, they're ready to sell,"
Mhm.
and then we do it. And I really like that synergy, and I'd like to do more of that. So I like your idea of the interviewing and promoting them so they automatically find you. I think that's a clever. Yeah, thank you.
A lot of our vendors that are out there, many times aren't very good at promoting themselves. They're just regular people. They're like us. Sometimes we have a hard time promoting ourselves as well. If you can get really good at the marketing aspect, where you have a great email list or at least a campaign, even if you don't have a list yet, if you can get good at interviewing someone and promoting their business, a lot of times your marketing for their business will rank higher and show up before their marketing for their business. And that's my goal with my vendors is to show up when somebody types in estate planning company, estate planning attorney, estate planning financial advisor, estate sale company. My goal with promoting their business is for my stuff to show ahead of theirs.
Bruce, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go.
I'd be interested to see the videos, interviews that you have done on YouTube. Is there a link to that I can get to?
Um, yeah, sort of. I'll find it. I haven't done personal probate business. I haven't sold for several years. So
Uh-huh.
it should be under my Bruce Hill Homes YouTube account. But it's something that I kind of put into cruise control back years ago, and I haven't done a lot of selling. So email me. I'll make sure to send you some of those interviews that I have.
Okay.
If they're not on YouTube, they're floating out there on Google somewhere.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, the types and list of, do you have a type or a list of vendors that you can share so that, because I mean, I'm brand new at this. Matter of fact, I just signed up. We haven't even got our first list of leads yet. So, but I do want to start establishing relationships with vendors. I'm somewhat unsure of what types of vendors I should be establishing a relationship with.
Great question. Great question. So, anyone in a life transition. So, the top of the list are going to be estate planning attorneys and probate attorneys. And most of the time, they are one and the same.
Okay.
Most of the time. I know estate planning attorneys that don't touch probate, and I know probate attorneys that don't touch estate planning. But I'll tell you that the majority do both. So they're top of the list. Financial advisors are second on top of the list for me, and I'll tell you why. Many times they don't help with probate, but many times they refer their wealthy clients to estate planning attorneys. Okay. So I like to build relationships with financial planners in order to get introduced to estate planning attorneys, estate sale companies, property clean out crews. We have contractors, so you need a suite of contractors no matter what. Okay. I would go to nursing home facilitators and administrators. I would also do assisted living administrators, even though they may not be directly tied to probate. Our service still matches up with what they need and their clientele. Anybody else? Bill, have any others that I might not be jumping to the top of my mind?
So what I might answer the question from a different angle, which is because there's different niches and different areas of probate, high end, low end, different regions are different. What I would challenge you to do is anybody who touches your clients would be a source of referral, right? So depending on where you are, I do a lot of clean out, junk out, estate sale, lower end is more common. I would love to get the $5 million estates, but I don't, and I'm working towards it. But the reality is on a regular basis, I don't have the business to feed them. I've interviewed some of those vendors, but I also interview the lower level ones. So I would say to you that every person you meet in serving your customer becomes a potential source. So you go to probate court, you find your customer has a probate bond. There's a probate bond company guy or gal. They need insurance for the property because it's vacant. That insurance guy is a vendor. And so I think I would take the approach that just really stop and pay attention. You're already talking to so many people. We rush through these processes and don't add into the room for all the people that along the way need that are helping our customer. Those are the people that we want to be talking to, making sure they go from being a stop, like a stop along the way to they get added into your center of influence database and you market to them for the rest of your career.
Okay.
Another thing that I would add are there's a lot of folks in the mix that the consumer doesn't immediately go out and look for until they're months into the process. And then they find out that they need something, a personal banker. Okay. They have to open up an account for the estate. And maybe they never thought of going out and building a relationship with a banker, but they're now they find themselves in a bank creating an estate bank account. And maybe they just do that with the teller, but more than likely they're doing that with a banker. And so I would get involved with some bankers that are in this field as well. They may not be specialty niche bankers, but they do work with estates. Locksmiths are a really big one. Now, I haven't seen anyone have a riveting interview with a locksmith at this point. but could you tell me the 12 keys to changing the locks on a probate house? You're not gonna run into that, but they're still looked for. They need someone to help with the grass, the gutter cleaning. There's just lots of different people that come in and out of the lives of someone going through the probate process. And I would find and interview and promote as many of them as I possibly could. All right, Pat.
Home health is another good one,
Yeah.
especially the non-medical as well as the medical, because they are really hitting the market now, that especially since Medicare has decided as of 2020 to recognize pay bills for the seniors. That's another good area.
Yeah. So talk to us about home health a little bit. What specifically, how have you gone about finding your home health relationships?
Well, I'm actually in the process of
Great.
building those.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I've just joined a senior networking community in the area that I live in, Charleston, South Carolina, or the area. And it is loaded with the healthcare industry. And I tend to migrate. I used to be in the medical field, so I tend to migrate towards like assisted living, those type communities, as well as I'm recognizing how important home health is, because not everyone can afford to go to assisted living. And I'm like Bill, I tend to go on the low side. Bill, I'm right there with you. I want the $5 million listing. So, but it is, I was in a room full of healthcare of all. Hospice was there. There were numerous hospice, so it's a good area.
Absolutely. I've heard, I personally did not work on building any hospice relationships. But I will tell you that that I know a lot of folks that have worked on building the home health and the hospice relationships and things. I think that you have to be a little bit more diplomatic when you're dealing with someone that is directly connected with that end of life and that transition that someone's going to. Like I wouldn't go to a hospice provider and say, "Hey, I hear you deal with a lot of dead people. Let's talk." I mean, you got to be really diplomatic and empathetic, because even though they may not be a family member with the emotion, they can still recognize when your intent is clear, and your intent not only is clear, but it's also coming from the right place. But I really love the idea of the home health industry.
That's why I'm in the process of building relationship.
Good.
Yeah.
So relationships, guys, relationships, I think, are absolutely key to this business. If you don't have a good network and you don't have good relationships, can you still be successful? Yes, I think you're much more likely to be successful with the relationships. And you guys could start extremely niched down into just the probate and the estate planning attorney relationships, or you could go a little bit broader. If you're going to go broad, start with all those people that are Googleable. So when a family runs into a situation where they have to set up or settle an estate, who do they Google first? And ask yourself that. And those are the relationships that you're going to start becoming a value to. Now, I'm going to be really clear. You don't want to just be go after those relationships and say, "Hey, I need referrals. Will you send me everyone that you have?" That's a great way to not get business. Okay. But if you show up from the standpoint of being a value to them, and only they can tell if you have commission breath or not. But if you don't have commission breath when you show up, you should be able to build some really good relationships quickly and start getting that spin-off business from them. Let's go to Deborah.
Hi, everybody. I just want to follow up with Pat from South Carolina. When you were saying that you go to the nursing homes and assisted living, are you meeting with the directors, those kind of people?
Yes, I'm building relationship with staff and definitely directors first. And I'm also like director of nursing, because I feel like it's as important to, and they have family too. So it's not just whomever's in the assisted living or whatever community, they have family too. So if you build relationship, and then I'm actually going to be speaking next month at an assisted living. I built up enough relationship. They're actually asking me to do like a lunch and learn.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I actually have a downsizer speaking for a little bit on, just cleaning out your closet or what, the process of that portion, working towards maybe moving into assisted living or whatever in the future. And then I'm going to spin off from that, from where are your documents? Do you have a will? Do you have a POA? And do you know where the deed is to your house? Who's owned the deed? And do you have a safe place for those? Do you know where they are? So that's the bulk of it.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The overwhelming majority of folks, especially with us in that kind of this probate world, don't have great planning. And if we can get ahead of this end of life and we can help with the planning, your business is going to be positioned well. You're going to have clients that are more properly prepared to move through the process faster. Hopefully, it's not probate if you can get in front of them fast enough and teach them or help facilitate their education on how to avoid probate. But if you can be a value to people before their urgent need, there's a lot of business there as well. Okay, guys. Other questions that we might have, if there are not right now, I'm going to take a really fast 30 seconds, give you guys a small little commercial. If you guys are here and you have not taken Probate Mastery, I'm going to encourage you to jump over to probatemastery.com. Take a look at that certification course. Really quickly, it's 5 sessions of kind of a deep dive into your probate business, probate specifically. We do cover some topics like we're covering today, like building a team, but you also learn the ins and outs of how to get to the courthouse and how to understand the probate process in your local area, how to market to them, prospect, what your appointments need to look like. So I'm just going to encourage you guys to go check out the Probate Mastery certification course. Conversely, we also have coaching that has launched. So if anyone is looking for coaching, I sent an email out this morning regarding a workshop that's coming out. Down in the PS of that email, I talk about booking a discovery call for coaching. So if anyone's looking for either small group or one-on-one coaching that works you through for like 6 months, building your business, starting with the baby steps and working up to a fully systemized business, we are offering that now. So back off of the commercial, I want to talk briefly with you guys about your baby steps in the probate business. So I asked in the beginning of the call where everyone was with regard to the business. So where are you getting your business from? We've got Bill, who focuses very heavily on probate and gets some spin-off business. I focus heavily on probate and will still get business from other areas. My wife is on the call. She gets a lot of business outside of the probate. So we kind of approach our business a little bit more holistically, where probate may be a piece of the pie. So probate would be a piece of our pie, but a big piece. Okay. So where are you guys getting your business? And then one of the big mistakes that I see from a lot of folks when they get into a niche is they look at it and they get overwhelmed. They feel like, oh my gosh, I can go out and build relationships with attorneys. I've got these leads. I can pick the phone up and start calling. Maybe I should be on YouTube. Should I go meet estate sale companies? Do I need to door knock? What about my letters? Should I write blogs? And they go, I'm going to do all of it. And what ends up happening is they push one plate an inch down this 100-yard football field, and then another ball. Okay, I'm mixing my metaphors up here. So another ball, they push another 3 inches, and then they go down here, and they never really get anything to the place where it's generating business. Or they look at all these different balls that they can roll down the field, and they go, I can't make a choice. I'm not going to do anything. So I want to challenge you guys to take a step back and evaluate where you are. Are you trying to push too many things? You're taking action. and that's good, but you're bouncing between balls and trying to get them down the field? Or are you frozen in the uncertainty of it, frozen in the, hey, how do I do this phase? And if you're in either one of those, I'm going to encourage you guys to take a step back and maybe look at your business and say, okay, if I had to start, what would the one thing I could do be that would go generate some business now? So Bill's answer, and Bill, welcome to chime in here if I either get this wrong or you want to add on to this. I don't think I'm going to get it wrong because you gave us your answer a little bit ago. Bill's answer was, I'm going to go to probate court and I'm going to do it every day. And I'm going to become really good at understanding the process in my area and building relationships. Okay. That was Bill's. My answer was, I'm going to get my leads and I'm going to pick the phone up and I'm going to ask people if they need help with the probate process. Okay, that was my answer. Some people are going to jump on YouTube. What I'm going to encourage you guys to do is pick something that has a likelihood of generating today business and go do it a lot until you become really good at it. Think of that like baby step number 1. Baby step number 2, once you have a pipeline starting to build up and you're consistent with that activity that's going to generate closings for you. Once you have that pipeline built up, you've got maybe some closings or some pendings or at least a healthy pipeline of people that are going to do business. Your next baby step needs to be focused on creating a system. Okay. It doesn't need to be your entire system. It needs to be one piece of that system. Okay. The reason that you want to focus with your second step on something that's system related is because I don't want you to become a victim of your success. Some people get really good at creating business and then they don't go on vacation and they work 14 hours a day and they're at the at every time their phone rings, they're worried that they're going to miss some business, so they answer it at all hours of the night and morning. Okay, and they don't have a life. And so I'm going to encourage you guys to baby step number 1, pick one thing that's going to start building your pipeline, and when that's building, go pick one thing that's going to make your job and your life easier. And then I would just alternate back and forth between pipeline systems. I think that there are about 12 overall categories of baby steps that we can focus on when we're building a niche business like probate. I'm not going to go through all 12, but I think that it all starts with, hey, I need to add a little bit more direct to consumer lead generation or conversation generation. And then once I've gotten those conversations and my pipeline is growing in that particular area, now I need to go work on a system to make me more efficient and give me my life back so that I don't become a victim of success. So I don't want you guys to look at these 12 different things that you can rush out and do and say, I've got to do all these. No, you don't. You can pick one thing and then pick a system and work a system around that one thing before you go add another thing into the mix. So I already know what Bill's are, but I am going to ask Bill, what are your things? What's your area of getting business, and what's your system that goes into supporting that business?
So maybe I'm a little more of a maintenance at my phase. I'm 65. I built a great business. I make a great income every year and have great momentum. So, but for the last 5 years, or last 2 years since COVID came out, my system and what I've worked, including today, is I use video to talk to as many people as I can. And so my goal is to interview people who can refer me business. I interview attorneys, vendors, agents in other areas, and put that content on podcasts and or my YouTube channel. But also I find that by talking to them, I have a more intimate relationship. So I just yesterday interviewed a great partition attorney, partition real estate, which overlaps into probate. And he wants me to introduce him to one of my probate attorneys. In exchange, my probate attorney will appreciate meeting him. And all the realtors around the country, we're going to say, wow, this guy's really an expert, might refer me business. So the idea is, if I help people, magically the business kind of happens. But I focus every day. I spend every morning until noon, do my best to talk to as many people as I can Usually, recording video interviews is the primary source.
I love it. What kind of an attorney, Bill?
Yesterday's was a partition attorney.
Partition.
So what happens? Two people, let's say mom, dad die, and leave property to brother and sister. They're not entitled. They both own half of it. One wants to live there for free forever. The other one wants to sell it, and it's life-changing money. How do you do? What do you do? And so there is a way you can force that. Now in probate court, that can be adjudicated. But if it's a trust and it's been split up already, or if they went through probate and the probate court just gave them each half a deed, the process in some parts of the country is called heirs real estate, particularly the South. And this grew out of the problem where freed slaves were given, I think, 200 acres or something. And then they would have 10 kids and then they would die. And then those 10 kids have 10 kids. And next thing you know, you had 100 heirs owning 1% of 200 acres. And unscrupulous investors would buy out one, then another, and another. And so the laws have been created to protect the minority interests. But you also don't have to sit there forever and not be able to sell. You can force it to sell it for a market value. So that comes into effect in probate quite a bit. And probate attorneys appreciate that you know a little bit about that and how to help with that.
Yep. That's an area that I did not and have not focused on, but I can tell you I've run into quite a few instances where siblings, typically siblings, sometimes it's a niece or a nephew, want the house. They are inheriting a piece of the house, but not all of it. And they hold the deal up because they refuse to sign the deal because they want the house. And it usually ends up getting resolved, but it's interesting that you kind of bring up the partition attorney because that's not something that a relationship I've pursued. I see a lot of benefit from it though.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. I'm just looking every way to bring value to my customers. And so you might say, well, it's kind of rare. Okay. But my customer will say, well, I don't have a partition problem, but I did inherit a property and I have a question for you. So it's just to always be looking for ways to create value for my referral partners and my customers.
So what's the system that you have used? So this is a little bit slightly steering down a little bit of a different path, but what system do you use the most to keep in touch with your folks?
So kind of simple. I put everybody into my database. I use MailChimp as my email program because I can track my open rate, but it's pretty easy to use. And I've just over time, it's grown and I'm sure there's better alternatives, but it's worked for me. As a CRM, I use, I'm with XP, we get for free KV Core. I bring people in and tag them based on how they come in. But I think the thing that I would say to people is I just email everybody something once a week about real estate. And then I push people I do a podcast on probate called Probate Weekly, shameless plug, probateweekly.com. And they get invited to see, that episode every week. And I post on YouTube and I post on social media all the time, but everybody goes to my database I ever talk to that I know, like, and trust, and knows, likes, and trust me. Every vendor, every agent on every offer and every property, every mortgage company, every title rep. It's amazing how many realtors have quit and 5 years later call me up to help them. I've sold property for them or gotten referrals from them. So I'm just a big believer. I'm already writing the email once a week. I might as well send it to everybody. So I really put everybody in my database. I don't do sequenced follow-ups. When I talk to a customer, they go to my database. I know they're going to get my email Monday. We're going to try to get them onto YouTube. We're going to try to catch them on Facebook. But I use that as my follow-up. It's just everybody gets something every week.
Yep. I was on a coaching call this morning and I asked this investor how calls had gone over the last week. And he said 90% of everyone that I spoke with plans to keep the house. And, I already knew the answer because I've coached this person for a while. But my next question was, how many people did you talk to? And it was over 100. Okay. 90% plan to keep the house. And I'm saying that not to scare any of you off, but to tell you that when you ask the wrong question, that's the answer that you're very often going to get. So we know that it's typically about 50%, sometimes as low as 40% or as high as 60, but somewhere in the range of 50% of everyone that inherits real estate is going to need to sell it. Okay. So why would someone say 90% of everyone I'm talking to plans to keep the house? All right. So I started kind of talking to this guy and role playing through some of the conversation. And I realized that he was starting conversations with, I'm in real estate and I help people through the probate process that have inherited real estate. I was wondering if you had plans on the real estate yet. And this individual is going after pre-probate leads who have just lost someone, are probably way early in the process, really early in the process. And most likely, their easiest way of brushing a prospector off of the phone is to say, we're going to keep the house. So I realized that maybe instead of saying, hey, do you have plans for the real estate yet? Maybe he says, hey, I know it's really early in the process. Is it too early to decide on the real estate, or do you have plans to sell? Okay. So immediately we start role playing that and making some adjustments to the phone approach in a way that gets more people to identify them as being too early in the process, which is absolutely true for the overwhelming majority of people that just open probate or are just before opening probate. Most of the time, they don't have a pressing financial need. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. And most of the time it's too early. They haven't had those conversations yet. Okay. So what we need to do as investors and as agents in our conversations is identify who just hasn't entered that window of need yet, and then find a way with our systems to be present when they enter and credible when they enter that window of need. If somebody passes away in a family and there's an inherited property, and guess what? Most of the time, there's no mortgage on it. I think it's something like 67% of the time, there's no mortgage on it. So guess what immediately takes a backseat because there's not an urgent financial need to sell a house, even if it's vacant, even if it will end up being sold. The house often takes a backseat and they get going along with other things. And if they haven't heard from you for another 3 months and 2 months in, they get a tax bill, what do you think they're going to be doing before they hear from you again? Probably selling the house or interviewing agents or talking with investors. And lo and behold, that person that told you earlier that they don't have any plans, immediate plans to sell the house, lo and behold, they sell the house and you never had your chance. Why? Because you weren't present at the time that they entered that window of need. So I'm going to encourage you guys, and I knew Bill's answer because I get Bill's emails. Okay. I'm going to encourage you guys to think like marketers and put yourself with value in front of your consumers for a longer period of time, especially those that don't have a need today. If they don't have a need today, it doesn't mean that they won't next week. It doesn't mean that an insurance payment's not going to show up next week. It doesn't mean that they're going to not get an HOA violation for their grass being too tall, or a water pipe in a cold weather climate's not going to burst. Things happen that are unexpected, and it creates the feeling of need in our consumers. And we need to be present with our email system at the time that that need comes up. You're much more likely to get that call if they know who you are through email. Okay. Deborah, let's go to you.
I just wanted to ask, Bill, you say that you send out an email every week. What could you send that many times out to the people?
Well, I'll send you a link and you can get it yourself if you want. I don't know how else to help you answer the question. I send out a weekly update every week, and I get a great open rate. I get a lot of people replying to me. It's been somebody I've done as a realtor from the very beginning, and I've really put the gas on it. Literally everybody I talk to, I have a positive relationship with. I add to that list, and I did a class on this at one point, a master class on it. I don't really want to be in Bruce's business for us coaching and classes. I'm glad to help. I come on here. I'm here today as a colleague, not as a coach or as a employee of the company. But I do believe in helping agents. And I think what I try to say to you is you need to find your voice. You develop that by practicing. I put in my calendar every week an hour, and I would read the real estate news that I found interesting. Again, that I found interesting, not you, but me. We're different. And then I would just say, hey, here's an interesting article, on so-and-so, on Redfin, on Yahoo, about sales up, sales down, or this thing. And I would link the article. Then I got more sophisticated. I would copy the graphic and put it in the email. And then I would start writing a little bit more. And today my format is I cover 3 statistics, and then I have about 8 to 10 news articles that I write a paragraph on and link to it. And then I record it and put the video at the top of that. And that recording is on my YouTube channel. So it's grown over time as I found my voice. And so what I would say to you, Deborah, is start with something that not mine, not Bruce's, that your customers would appreciate getting once a week. And if you just think about your friend, your past client, your prospect, what would they want to know about real estate? There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of nonsense. But what's one thing you would like them to know about? Start with that and then build on it every week. I think you'll find your voice.
Okay, thanks. So you don't have to talk about probate. You can talk about anything in real estate.
Yeah, I don't talk about probate on that email. It's about real estate.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
So I'm going to get a little bit more granular on this and basically say, I'm going to talk to you guys philosophically for a second, just sales philosophy and sales psychology. Okay. The last thing your consumer wants is to see, hey, I'm a realtor. Hey, I'm a realtor. Hey, I'm a realtor. Sell your house, sell your house, sell your house. That's a way to get unsubscribes really fast. You do need a little bit of that from time to time, a little bit, but just a sprinkling, because they can't not know that you're available to help. They need to know you're available to help. But for the most part, you need to be helping through email and not forcing a call every time. Okay, so what I would do is I would sit down and I'd make a list of things that could possibly be a challenge through the probate or estate settlement process. And the list can be pretty big. All right, things that could possibly be a challenge. Maybe the grass is too tall. Maybe they have to deal with HOAs. Maybe they have to deal with credit cards. Maybe they have to deal with back taxes. Maybe they need an estate sale. Maybe they need a realtor. Maybe they need a clean out. All right. Maybe they need to winterize a house. I mean, there could be hundreds of different challenges that they face during the probate process. The point is not being perfect for every single person that opens your email up. The point is being perfect for a small segment. So I'm going to use 2 examples for you guys. Example number 1 is going to be Tim Ferriss. So Tim Ferriss wrote the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage it. And Tim runs a long form podcast that I listen to about once every 6 months. Okay. I look at the podcast every single week. I open it up to see what the podcast is. And the overwhelming majority of the time I go, not for me. Okay. Why do I open it up and look at it? Because 5% of the time it's right up my alley. It's exactly what I want to listen to. Exactly. And he does that on purpose. And he even goes so far as to talk about it in one of his blogs, where he says, when I put content together for my audience, I want 95% of the time it not to be for them. But 5% of the time, it's going to be so relevant that they come back and check out the 95%. Okay. But every week, it's a different 5% of his audience that he's talking to. And it's so unbelievably relevant to them that they come and at least watch. They open the episode to see what it's about. Okay. Now, sort of a slightly different topic, but still along the lines of what to write about. Okay. I want to point out a guy named Alex Hermosi. And I think a lot of people here have heard Alex Hermosi. He's rushed onto the scene with his marketing books and things like that. And Alex tells a story about putting people in his email list and seeing that they've opened. The beautiful thing with email lists is if you have a good system like MailChimp, like Bill has, or Kajabi like I have, we can see if we wanted to get granular and see who's opened things. And Alex, over the course of a year or two, he mentioned writing a book. He said 5 times that he mentioned writing a book. And finally, he had an email that said, "Hey, if you want more information, book a call with me." And he got a bunch of people that booked a call with him. And the first several people that had booked a discovery call with him to talk about partnership, he asked them, he said, "Hey, did you know that I had a book?" And most of them said, "No, no, I didn't know that." And he went back and he looked at those people and he saw that they had opened and read his previous emails about having a book. So why did they not know that he had a book? It's because they don't remember everything that you say. The point is keeping them engaged. It's keeping them engaged. It's getting them to enjoy your content, to learn something from your content. It's not about making sure that they remember every single piece of content that you write. It's about keeping them wanting to read when you send an email out. So with that said, let's say you only come up with 10 pain points that you can help people solve on your list of problems. And you write about those 10 things, and that's 10 weeks of emails. There's absolutely nothing that says that you can't go write about those 10 things again and just recycle them over and over and over again, because your audience, they're not going to remember exactly what you said about it the last time anyway. Now, there's a whole lot more things that you can email them about, a whole lot more than 10, but even if it was only 10, you can recycle that content. Now, I'm not saying make a copy of the email and send it again. I'm saying you can still talk about the same topic. Do you have any idea how many times I've talked about baby steps of your probate business? Bill, but you have any idea how many times Bill has talked about going to probate court? We talk about it a lot, and people still show up to listen. They still learn something from it. It doesn't mean that once you've talked about it, you can never mention it again in your marketing. All right. Hopefully that is good, Deborah. Guys, we are coming up to the top of the hour. Definitely want to respect your time. If I have any last minute questions, would you pop your hands up? Love to take those. I've got a coaching session starting here in just a minute. Before we jump off, and while I'm looking to see if anyone else has any questions, I do want to remind you guys, if you haven't taken Probate Mastery and you would like to get certified as a certified probate expert, go check out probatemastery.com. We've got a lot of great free and paid courses over there. I've got Probate Mastery coming up live here in 2 weeks on a Monday, the 26th. It's going to be every afternoon that week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for about 3 hours each day. If you run over there and sign up for that class, you also get an on-demand version that you can take before or after. I'd love to see some folks signing up for that in that class. We do this every week. So if you're new here, encourage you and invite you to come back next Tuesday at the same time. We're going to start putting coaches up. Bill is going to be, a lot of you guys know that Bill has been here every single week for a long time. I greatly appreciate the contribution that Bill has had. Bill is going to still be here, but you're going to start to see some other familiar faces as well, and maybe even some unfamiliar faces that hopefully become familiar to you. I just want to express my appreciation and gratitude for Bill carrying this coaching call week after week over the last couple of years, right, Bill? Yep. Very well appreciated.
Yeah.
This is not a parting. This is just starting to put some extra content and some extra voices into the coaching call. Bill, anything from you?
Yeah, if I could add to that, I would say to those, I'm not on this call because this is my business. I'm on this call because I need this to build my business. We all need some accountability. We all need colleagues. We all need people to push us and share new ideas with us. And so it's been an honor and privilege. But I would challenge those of you who say, what can I do to build my business? One answer is be on this call every week. That's what I've done for the last years that this call has been going on, and to the best of my ability. So thank you for the privilege of being here, Bruce. But to the rest of you, I challenge you, be here every week. Make this part of your business. bring questions, bring challenges, challenge all of us to challenge you to be more successful.
Yep. I love it. Thank you, Bill. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's been a great call. Come back, see us next Tuesday, 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 Pacific. I even see someone from Hawaii here. So who knows what time it is there? It's probably 2 a.m. Do appreciate you guys being here, though, and see you next week.